Aloha mai kakola hui Hawaii. We're coming to you live today from the beautiful studios of Ōlelo TV Studios in Mapunapuna on the island of Oahu. We're here for the 2018 Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum. My name is Kauko'ohu Wahilani. I am one of your moderators today, and to my right I have my tita. Introduce yourself, tita.
Lokana Keli Ikoapua. And to my right is our timekeeper, Meleana. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Meleana Kamai. Oh, she's not Mike, so Meleana Kamai. Thank you very much.
Mahalo.
Today we'd like to again thank you for joining us, and we do have a set of questions. We'll let you know. It could be between a minute to a minute and a half, so bear with us. Today we'd like to start with our wahine, Ms. Bohai. Be the first one on this beautiful panel.
Introductions. Introducing themselves.
Yeah.
Introducing themselves.
We would, if you would please, go ahead and introduce yourself, starting with 2 minutes. Thank you.
Aloha. It is the Hawaiian way to say who you come from and where you come from. I am the granddaughter of William Nakaleave and Edith Naone Kamakana of Kalamaʻula, Molokaʻi, and Henry and Thelma Shaw Grambush of Detroit, Michigan. My parents were Jack and Liko Grambush of Kawela, Molokaʻi. Yes, I am a daughter of Molokaʻi. I'm very proud of it. My experience extends, it's very mixed. I have over 22 years of service in nonprofit at various levels, as support, as administrator, as volunteer, as paid. I've also served in the state senate. It was a very hard seat that I won, though it was a special seat, special term. I learned a lot from that as well. I also served as the president of the Kamehameha Schools Alumni Association at a very controversial time, representing the largest membership, the Oahu chapter, upon the completion of the agreement settlement after the deposed trustees and the new trustees were put in. I won by 13 votes. It was very controversial at that time, and I'm very proud of that service. I've also served in appointed positions as well, and served on the neighborhood board in Kailua, also as a commissioner. I've done a lot of volunteer work at various levels. My work in the community includes very little contribution to very big. My last job that I just left in April was the executive director of the Native Hawaiian Hospitality Association, an organization funded by the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and that was for the last 5 years. And we did cultural training in the largest industry in the state of Hawaii. Shucks. Okay.
Thank you. William. Oh, aloha mai kako. I'm William Isla Jr. Come from a long line of William Islas. My grandfather was William Isla. My father is William Isla. So not to be confused, please don't blame them for what I say. I was born and raised in Waiʻanae, and it has really impacted how I feel and how I think. It's impacted my children and my grandchildren and even my great-grandchildren now. For close to 24 years, I was the harbor master of the Waiʻanae Boat Harbor. Then I became the chair of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. And then to present, I'm the deputy director at the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Those were my day jobs, because my passion, and they allowed the bills to be paid so that I could implement my passion along with my wife, who's sitting in the audience, and the rest of the collective Ohana. And that passion is advocating for Native Hawaiian rights, advocating for Native Hawaiian responsibilities, because oftentimes we talk about rights without considering the responsibilities that come along with them. And sometimes that means you have to disagree with your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your family, because we live in a world that's confusing. What Hawaiians did, what Hawaiians do, sometimes gets caught up in Western concepts and the application of really what would a Hawaiian do, or what should a Hawaiian do. So I'm hoping that the experience that I bring from all these opportunities will allow me, if successful at the campaign for OHA, to contribute in a positive way to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Thank you.
Aloha. My name is Landon Paikai. I am 34 years old, running for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, trustee at large. I am the oldest of 5 children, born to Lije Manuvai Paikai and Laura Kamalani Paikai. I am married to Sarah Kiko Paikai, and together we have 4 beautiful children, Kalino, Ka'elele, Kaha'i, and Ha'ale. I'm running for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to bring back integrity back to the office. I'm running because I believe that it's time for change for our people. I believe in the process. I believe that the office was founded on good principles that we can utilize to move forward. Of course, it's caught up right now in muck and mire, and everyone is looking and bashing and wanting to tear down, but I see it as a great building opportunity. I see this opportunity as a way to better and strongly empower and strengthen our Hawaiian community. I've created an action plan, and that action plan is accountability, collaboration, transparency, innovation, opportunity now. We need it now more than ever, more than ever. I'm so tired of seeing our people being swept to the side. I'm so tired of seeing our people being moved from place to place. I grew up all over the place as a Hawaiian. I was born and raised on Oahu, spent about 10 years in Waiʻanae. So if you ask me where my hometown is in Waiʻanae, but I've experienced so many different things, and I believe that my experiences and the things that I currently do will take me on this journey to strengthen and empower our Hawaiian people. Mahalo.
Mahalo. And Kauai, after that?
Aloha. Ahi ahi ia o ko au pauloa. Thank you so much for this forum that we're having. Amsterdam's the man. I'm Amsterdam. Initial C. Kawi Yohanan Amsterdam. That's on the ballot. I'm a candidate because I will expand the vision of our Native Hawaiian people. Presently, as Native Hawaiians, we are a sideshow. Our people are a sideshow. And I will go from being a sideshow to the main player, to a main player, a major player in Hawaii, America, and throughout the world. I am a Hawaiian Jew. My mother's a full-blooded Hawaiian. She started out as a pioneer in self-determination. One of my mentors is Kekuni Blaisdell. I served to have 7 conferences for Native Hawaiian self-determination, have been also a officer in the interim government of the Hawaiian Kingdom. As a Hawaiian Jew, I will have my friends and my associates in Israel, Hawaiian Jews, who are experts, experienced, and very knowledgeable in nation building, in self-determination. And I call them to come and assist us in our self-determination. It's time to show you that, that we are a sideshow when on June the 5th, Prince Aki Shino and Princess Kiko came to Hawaii. They didn't come to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. They didn't come to visit any Hawaiian community. They came to visit the governor of Hawaii. They should have come to visit our Hawaiian people. I will expand our vision so that we will become major players in Hawaii, in America, and throughout the world. Mahalo.
Thank you. You have the first question?
Okay.
Mahalo, everyone. So my first question for you folks would be, what programs, initiatives, or community activities have you championed, and does that apply to Native Hawaiians and OHA beneficiaries? Mr. Aila?
The first one that comes to mind is the efforts to create what was then the Northwestern Hawaiian Islands Coral Reef Ecosystem, which became Papahānaumokuākea, and then to elevate as a co-trustee the Office of Hawaiian Affairs in this last go-round of the expansion of Papahānaumokuākea from 50 miles out to 200 miles. There is, I don't think there's any new fishing regulations in the last 30 years that I have not been a part of in creating, in gaining support from fishermen for the changes. The community-based fisheries-based area on Kauai encouraged the folks on Kauai and actually contributed to the rulemaking that made it happen.
Well, as a senator, obviously, I supported a lot of the legislation that helped the Hawaiian community. But I think the one that I really want to mention, that's something that now that I'm an older and much wiser person, was my advocacy questioning Kamehameha schools and their debacle with the admissions at the time, which was very controversial. It was very difficult personally to engage in that. Now that I can look back and see what has happened since. But I think the message there is that even as trustees, our primary role really is advocate. And I'm very proud of what I did at the time. I questioned the school more about remembering who the school is supposed to be serving, and that's our Hawaiian keiki, which is something that I will continue to do as a trustee. I do want to mention that it was very difficult and challenging, and well, thank you.
Mahalo. Kauai.
Mahalo. I mentioned already what I've done in order to advance self-determination for our Native Hawaiian people. Also, I've served a longtime member of the board, neighborhood board, 10, and I've also worked with Papakolea as part of this section that is within the neighborhood board. As I also, health, culture, economic development, Aina, and education are areas that I've been working on and I will continue to work on. I've been CEO of 3 humanitarian organizations that are local, national, and international. I've gone to 11 colleges and institutes, both in Hawaii, America, and Europe, and in the Middle East. And also in education, I have a philosophy of education master's. These are the areas that I've been focusing on and continue to work on.
Thank you. And last but not least, Landon Paikai.
Mahalo for the question. I'll be honest with you. I did a lot of helping around the world. Did work as a missionary and just help people wherever it was that they needed help. And I felt guilty because for a long time I neglected my Hawaiian people. And for the past 4, 5, 6 years, I've been home giving back to our Hawaiian people through homeless outreach, through advocacy efforts at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, testifying on their behalf at Board of Trustee meetings for the past 2 years, and utilizing that advocacy effort to further strengthen and empower our Hawaiian people. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Tita.
Thank you. And this one I'm going to give a minute and a half to answer because I think it's worth it. But several of our Waiʻanae community members, particularly one has been especially watchful over OHA's actions. These past few years, her research has also been shared at the OHA's meetings. And mostly, surprisingly, is about particularly to the inappropriation of funds. Furthermore, she has also substantiated this by the State of Hawaii's auditor's report. So are you aware of these findings? And if so, what is your response as to how to plan to remedy this, what has been found?
Mahalo for the question. I think I know what you're talking about because we see each other at, and I won't mention her name, but mahalo for the work that she has done and what you guys continue to do for our people on the Waiʻanae Coast and throughout the state of Hawaii. I agree with a lot of the findings that has been found. For me, the approach has to be a little bit different in the way that we approach the Board of Trustees. It's not, we're not pointing, yes, you're pointing fingers, and yes, you're talking about things that you want to see fixed. But for me, if you're going to bring a problem to the table, bring the solution. And one of the main solutions for this is to continue to follow the policies that have been put into place already. Make sure that administration is supported by the trustees. And that's something that I see is faltering at the level, at the trustee level, is that we don't have a great support system for our administration. I'm going to tell you guys right now, my mom works for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. She's worked there for many years. And I go there and I see the morale, it's dead. it's dead. It's a dead place. And I want to bring that integrity. I want to bring that vitality back. There are a lot of solutions that I cannot speak to right now. We can talk more one-to-one in a group setting. But one of them is to continue to follow the policies and the procedures that have been put into place and make sure that as trustees, we support the administration wholeheartedly and give them the proper vision to move forward. Mahalo.
Aloha. As we look at the funds that are used in the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, it's from the Crown lands, the so-called ceded lands. I propose to put the ceded lands in the Crown Land Authority, and that we pay more attention to and be more focused on the Crown lands and to take better management of the Crown lands. Also, as trustees, to be able to record our our expenses are, have an audit done within the Office of Hawaiian Affairs as well as the state. But I think that it should be transferred to our self-determined government, our government entity, and we shouldn't have to be in a situation like this where the state is auditing us. We should be auditing ourselves. And so I think that governance should be overall, and then these 5 areas that I had mentioned, health, culture, education, aina, economic development, would be under the umbrella of governance. If we're going to continue to be a sideshow and not a major player, then we'll stay the same. Otherwise, we have to advance our governing entity, and that's why I propose to bring experts who are expert in this area to assist us in doing so.
First, I'd like to say that government audits are usually done to improve an agency, not to punish an agency. I think there's enough blame to go around. I don't see any one person or party being solely responsible for most of the criticism. The current audit that was done by the auditor, I agree with a lot of the findings. It's my understanding, as reported by OHA, that they are addressing a bulk of the criticisms. I think that as we move forward, if there's a need for more specific findings or criticisms, then it should be allowed to happen. I do want to commend the community member that does take the time to do what she does. I am aware of what she does. Personally, I think maybe she should be paid as a consultant. It's so detailed what she's been doing, auditing the records herself as a community member. And I think you need someone like that to basically hold OHA accountable. And it's not a bad thing. Improvement is always needed, and OHA is not unique to having negative audits. Most of the state agencies, like I said, is meant to improve the agency, and that's what we need to focus on, is the improvement right now.
I would agree with Pohai that audits are a good thing, and that the current set of trustees have actually taken action to change policies to reflect some of the maybe inappropriate spending that has been approved. I would point out that OHA is a very unique state agency, though, and so sections of the audit that the auditor had made findings of were inaccurate. So I'll give you one example. The auditor found that the $3 million that OHA gives annually and has a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to cover the interest on bonds for construction of infrastructure on Hawaiian homelands is not something that should have gone to a competitive bid, nor is it something that should be considered discretionary spending. This is an agreement between 2 state agencies to help beneficiaries of both trusts. So the criticism of the state auditor of that transaction as one that should have gone to bid or not be considered a discretionary one is a clear example of how this particular state auditor was not aware of the uniqueness of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I do think that trustees need to hold themselves up to higher standards and use common sense in the use of their trustee allowance.
Thank you, Mr. Aina.
Thank you. My next question for the 4 of you would be, recently OHA and Kamehameha Schools sponsored the super debate for the Democratic Party. Do you think that both parties should be supported by OHA? Please explain. Start with Landon.
Mahalo for the question. I wholeheartedly believe that both parties need to be, not only both parties, but even independent parties, nonpartisan parties, need to be made to participate in this process. And the reason why I say that is if you remember, during the territorial times in early statehood, we were represented by Republicans. And there are a lot of Republicans. And then we moved to, they were tired of Republicans, and so it's all Democrats. And what I'm saying is, we need balance. We need balance. We cannot have so many to the right, so many to the left. We need balance and opportunities for people to champion the causes that they're wanting to champion, and champion the policies that they're wanting to bring forth. Because you have opportunities to bring in great people, but because they're not, quote unquote, Democrats, most people are not going to vote for them. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Most people are not going to vote for great people who are out there making change in the community because they're not Democrat. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's my honest feeling about it.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Kawi?
Could you repeat the question?
So the question was, recently OHA and Kamehameha School sponsored the super debate for the Democratic Party. Do you think that both parties should be supported by OHA? Please explain.
Well, as we're running here for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, myself at large, you can run as a nonpartisan. In that respect, we would encourage the support to come to OHA. It's open, whatever you want to, whatever political party you want to support, you can do. But in terms of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, it's kind of like in a position of nonpartisan. We invite them to support us. We can support, that's kind of an individual decision to make. But on the other hand, we've been addressing ourselves to OHA. And I think OHA, we've seen that, well, the way I look at it is OHA is an intermediate so that we can actually be a major player. And so if these parties want to support our self-determined governing entity, that's what I would propose. Rather than looking at OHA, I think OHA's main purpose is to expand its vision so that we are being a major player here in Hawaii and in America and throughout the world. And we would want other entities to support us. We can support them, but that's an individual decision, I would say.
Before we start the clock, I'd like to ask for clarification. I'm understanding your question differently, I think. Could you repeat the question first?
It's stated here, recently OHA and Kamehameha School sponsored the super debate for the Democratic Party. Do you think that both parties, well, that would be the Republican, should be supported by OHA?
First of all, I wrote a critical letter criticizing Kamehameha Schools the week before it was aired, with great concern that they were even participating in this. And first of all, because they're a nonprofit, when I became the president, one of the things that the community, it was resounding that they absolutely did not want Kamehameha Schools participating in any political activity, whether it's endorsement, any kind of activity. And the response I got back from the school was that it was about civic engagement and teaching the students. I also voiced my opinion to OHA, saying that they should have took care of their own candidates first before they were spending any resources outside of that for other candidates. Aside from that, I think that it's a really fine line. I got a response from the legal department at Kamehameha School saying they were within their rights. And those of us who remember the controversy of the trustees, it was a very painful and divisive time in Kamehameha's history. And I think we should honor what the community feels. Whether it's within their legal rights now, to me, is not the point. The point is that they did feature just one political party, and everybody knows that, well, most people know that I was the executive director of the Democratic Party. But I feel strongly, like Landon, that it needs balance. In fact, the GOP candidate is a Kamehameha alum, and she was not allowed that access to that. I did voice my opinion. It was very critical, and I'm sure I'm going to have some repercussions from people for it. But like I said, advocacy has never been my weakness.
Thank you, Bohai. Uncle Bill?
Sorry for the cough. The reason that OHA and Kamehameha Schools sponsored the super debate was to try to get the ability to ask questions relative to Native Hawaiian issues. So from that perspective, it was a good thing. I don't know from the answers from the debate whether or not the candidates answered with regards to the specific issues that they were trying to get regarding their opinions on Native Hawaiian issues. There should have been some coverage or some sponsoring of the other parties or the nonpartisan parties because it would be equally important to get their points of view. In Hawaii, it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. And so I think there are a lot of folks out there that feel that because it was done just for this group and not across the broad group, that something was missing. And I think that's why the author of that question put it on your list of questions to ask. So, you know, we need to be, just as we are with our family, we need to be fair with everybody in our family, and we should do the same thing if we truly want to understand what people are thinking about Native Hawaiian issues.
Mahalo. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is, what is your position or opinion of supporting our charter schools? Should they get equal funding as well? And Mr. Kaui, I'll start with you.
I think it's an educational issue. I got my master's in the philosophy of education from UCLA. I think that whether it be a charter school or whether it be a regular public school, one of the things that's missing among our students is a strong self-image and a self-identity. As Native Hawaiians, we need a stronger self-image, a more positive self-image, a self-identity. And so I think that whether it's a charter school, according to the policies that exist in the state, that's fine. But I think that our educational system has to be more generative in terms of the background of Native Hawaiians. And the whole educational system, I would say, is aimed towards personal and collective development. And that is missing right now. It's mostly for employment. And so I think that the whole educational system has to be more generative in terms of Native Hawaiians. And without, and our self-determination, our governing entity as a kingdom is something that's missing. And this is missing in terms of the pride of our Native Hawaiian people. If you go to Israel, you can see the people there are very, they have great pride. They have a nation, and they're very proud of their nation. So the whole educational system, I think, has to be expanded so that we're meeting the needs of Native Hawaiians.
Why?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's important to clarify that charter schools are not just for Hawaiian language or Hawaiian studies or just for Native Hawaiian students. One of the arguments against equal funding is that the first priority for state funding is for all of Hawaii's public schools. So I think that the charter schools do deserve more funding, but one of the issues I had as a senator is that there was no basic management structure that was consistent. So we just had recently in the news another charter school in the Hawaii Island that money is a problem. While I was in the Senate, there was $1 million unaccounted for one of the charter schools, and I'm not sure if they have found it yet. So I think that if charter schools, which really is about choice, public schools are mandated by law to serve all of Hawaii's keiki. If people choose the charter schools, I think that it is incumbent on the management to be responsible and make sure that the systems that they do choose does not jeopardize their funding. And it's not, in fact, there's been multiple schools, charter schools that have come into trouble. But there are some that are very successful. Navahi, for example, I have met fabulous graduates from that school, very impressive. They're Ōlelo Hawaiian, very professional demeanor. So I think they deserve more funding, but I cannot say that I think they have equal funding.
Thank you. Go ahead. Julio?
Well, I absolutely believe that charter schools, whether they're Hawaiian or non-Hawaiian, should get equal funding, and that funding should be expanded to facilities, right? Because public schools have the buildings built for them. Charter schools oftentimes have to go out and look for their own facilities and then start some GoFundMe campaign or whatever to actually create safe facilities for the students. So the Department of Education should really take a look at, in dispersing funds, making sure that the equal funding goes beyond just the student, average student weight, but also include facilities. And it's about being fair. Charter schools are meant to experiment and to be creative and innovative. And I think, in particular, the Hawaiian charter schools have been very innovative. And the reason they've been successful is they've been able to combine instruction with place-based learning.
Mahalo. I wholeheartedly agree with Bill Isla on the facilities aspect. I think that we need to actually work in collaboration with state and private funding as well as other ali'i trusts. So I work as a part-time teacher at Kamiki High School, and although we are helping a school that is not necessarily a Hawaiian school, we help a charter school. One, because we're losing students in our area and our cafeteria was looking to get shut down. So we wanted to offer, or our principal, who was a visionary, wanted to offer facilities for Sikhs, which is a charter school, but something like that. Areas where we can utilize facilities that are already in place, that are not being used, and we've given the opportunity to these schools to, not necessarily, they don't have to blend, but we have structured physical things. And also to what Pohai was saying earlier, we have to manage, and we have to learn how to manage the resources that are available. So it's a big issue. And yes, again, I think that OHA can be a part of it. They need to facilitate the collaboration. That's one of their priorities as an agency, is to facilitate that collaboration, to make sure that we're offering opportunities for our Hawaiian students. Mahalo.
Mahalo. My next question for the four of you. Given the huge number of homeless or houseless people living in Moku Waiʻanae, would you, as a OHA trustee, support a community dialogue about what to do to address these issues that include the homeless or houseless people? Uncle Bill?
Of course. As you know, the most sticking question is going to be where, right? Because you have everybody that's a NIMBY, not in my backyard. So you would have to look at properties that meet certain conditions, that have access to infrastructure, that don't have large neighborhoods around them. Because as in the case of the Pu'uhonua in Waiʻanae, the group wants to stay together and they want to get into a system of community farming and community living. So finding a unique property that meets that character, and then finding a unique surrounding community that will embrace that, is going to be the challenge. Can it be done? I think it can be done, but it'll take a lot of conversation with government agencies and neighbors and the folks that are in the Pu'uhonua o Waiʻanae.
Pohai?
I think absolutely we need more community conversation. Waiʻanae homeless is not the same as Waimanalo homeless or Kaka'ako. They're very unique to their district. Those similar Waiʻanae and Waimanalo, it's mostly extended families. So we do need conversation, but I think the bigger picture too is no one is engaging and addressing the issue of lack of home ownership and accessibility to that. That is where the wider hidden homeless is, because they're all living with extended families and it's causing a lot of stressors. Until we address that, we're going to continue to see our health numbers decline. as well as our family units. The stressors cannot be solved if everyone is forced to live together purely out of the need to meet the rent or the mortgage. But truly affordable in Hawaii is not the 800,000 and below, which is really what the definition is pretty much is 800,000 and below. We're talking about real accessible pricing of homes, 400,000 and below. And being real with our families who may look on paper that they're earning a lot of money when they're actually working 3 jobs. And the parents are not able to be present, and the older siblings are having to have the burden or the responsibility of caring for their younger siblings. So it's twofold. I don't think it's only a Hawaiian community issue, the homeless, which we have to be careful, because people tend to navigate the dialogue that way. As long as OHA is participating in a major part of the conversation, absolutely.
Mahalo. Kaui.
A high number of homeless are Hawaiians, Native Hawaiians. As I mentioned before, the crown lands, the ceded lands, are part of the Hawaiian kingdom. They're part of what are part of the Hawaiian people's resources. And by being able to manage that, we would be able to provide homes for our Hawaiian people, our Native Hawaiian people. It's a matter of taking over the Hawaiian homelands, of the ceded lands, the crown lands, having a crown land authority to be able to do that. And homelessness is just a manifestation of things that are being taken away from our Native Hawaiian people. We're being treated as a sideshow. We have to, how are we going to keep these programs that we have? Well, we're in a situation because we're not in a position to control these things. We're not major players. By being major players, we don't have to talk about, what about if we're going to take our programs, we don't have to talk about that because we'll be able to control our resources. And the self-image, the self-identity of our students and of our Native Hawaiian people will rise. If you go to Israel, you can see the people there. They have they have a self-identity. They know what they are. And also they have a belief in God. With Keakua, we can do all things. So therefore, I would propose having our governing entity, self-determination, nationhood, controlling our crown lands, and providing the homeless homes on these lands. Also through an organization, housing and construction department that can help not only to have the housing, but the finance in order to the land, but also the funds to build houses on the land.
Mahalo, Kaui. And last but not least, Landon. Paikai.
Mahalo for the question. Specifically with Pu'uhonua o Waiʻanae and Pu'uhonua o Wamanalo, I know that they have solutions already, and it's hard because the governor was forced. You know, he didn't want to meet with them, and then all of a sudden, because you had all of this ruckus and all this noise happening, all of a sudden, yeah, let's meet them. So they met with Twinkles and the facilitators, and what has come of it? You know, the question toward me is, because if you actually go and have conversations with the people who are there on the ground, who live it, they have solutions already that they want to put into place. The reality is, where do we offer them land? They got that solution for that as well. So again, I think that it has to come down to collaboration. We look too much to OHA to be the cash cow a lot of times, and unfortunately, OHA is not a $1 billion trust, not yet at least. I mean, and it can be. We can make it one day if we do what is necessary. But we need to facilitate collaboration. We really need to talk to people who are engaged and people who want to help, and then use the solutions that our people already have and bring those visions forth. And that's really, for me, I think that will solve a lot of our issues, because we know that stability, housing stability, is at the forefront of, as Pohai mentioned, structure for our children as they grow older. Mahalo.
Thank you. William, I'd like to start with you. What qualifies or distinguishes you from the other candidates seeking the same office?
Boy, I think we all have the same aloha. That's what I feel at the table over here. I think that I may have a little bit more experience in government, having worked in a number of government jobs for 31, 32 years. But I think also in my in my, like I said, the passion, standing up for iwi kupuna, reburying iwi kupuna, fishing rights, fishing responsibilities. You know, rain follows the forest was something that was started under our watch at DLNR because of the understanding about climate change. So I think probably a few more gray hairs than all of the other members on this panel, and that results in a little bit more experience, but certainly not the passion. I think everybody on this table has equal passion.
Why?
I too feel now that I'm a wiser and older person, experience is huge. Not only, I think what is critical is when the trustees are together making decisions, we draw upon our experiences, not just on decisions, but on asking the right questions. So I think my experience in nonprofit and government service, and also just knowing and being part of the wahine that helped to start OHA and collect signatures for petitions. I saw their vision, their hope, and their intent. And it's really simple. The compass is not complicated. It's improving the conditions of our people. Very simple.
Kaui Yohanan Amsterdam. I'm the same as everybody. But I may have some experiences and preparation that may be a little different. Because my experience has been here in Hawaii, my mother's a full-blooded Hawaiian, and Leilani hia a Klailoa Kaluhi o Kaleni Kalakaua Ehu. And also I've had great leaders to learn from, like Kekuni Blaisdell. But my experiences and background is quite diverse. Having been educated in Hawaii, America, Europe, Israel of the Middle East, you can be both a American citizen and you can be a citizen of Hawaii, the Kingdom of Hawaii. I found that out because I've lived abroad. I've resided abroad. So my education at 11 colleges and universities, practical experience in government here, as I've mentioned, and I think my belief in Keakua has been so helpful, because these things that we're talking about can be done with our faith, hope, and the help of Keakua. So I hope that these great things that the Lord has provided to be able to prepare and to help our Native Hawaiian people can be actualized. So indeed we can expand our vision and be major players in Hawaii, America, and throughout the world.
Mahalo for the question. For me, it would have to be my youth. The fact that I'm one of the younger candidates, and it's not to put anyone down as far as I draw from the experience of the people that I'm around, and I utilize my own life experience. So in 34 years of existence, I have experienced a plethora of things, including homelessness, losing a parent, losing a brother, watching my mom lose her son, and going through all those different things. As a trustee, that's what I will draw upon. Those things keep me relatable. They keep me energized to make sure that no Hawaiian goes homeless ever again. No Hawaiian struggles in school or falls through the cracks. No Hawaiian is left with a single parent, or no parents as an orphan, that no Hawaiian goes hungry. That's what pushes me, that's what drives me every single day in the work that I do as a youth counselor, in the work that I do as a part-time teacher, in the work that I do as a business owner. Those things push and motivate me to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity and has equal footing, equal standing in society. Mahalo.
Mahalo. I guess my last question for all four of you folks. As Nakanaka, as Kanaka Maoli, Nana Ikikumu, going back to the source, which would be our Nakupuna. So as a OHA trustee, if elected to be one, my question would be, would you advocate for our Nakupuna in every way possible? Uncle Bill?
Well, I think as, you know, the preference that you gave was as a Hawaiian. So of course, as a Hawaiian, you could not do that. The question becomes, what are you specifically asking? So in terms of kupuna in our family, I mean, it's our duty to take care of them. In terms of if you're referring to programs that support kupuna, then of course, but we also have to balance, as was stated earlier, this isn't a $1 billion trust, right? So there's only so much money that can be applied to all the different programs. And the programs go from kupuna to keiki, right? Go from houseless to housing to economic development to culture to the protection of water rights to the protection of tradition and customary practices. So within that context, I think OHA has a role to play, but I think in terms of the protection of our kupuna and the caring of our kupuna, that's a family unit responsibility.
Before we continue, I was just informed that we've got 5 minutes. So I'd like to offer you folks the time to do your closing instead of going through this question. Is that okay? So I'll start with you, Landon.
Sure.
1 minute.
Aloha again, my name is Landon Paikai. I'm running for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Trustee at Large because it is the right thing to do. I'm running to bring back integrity to the office by providing accountable, collaborative, transparent, innovative opportunities now for our people. They need it now more than ever. I ask that you be akamai when you vote and vote Paikai. Mahalo.
I'm Kaui Yohanan Amsterdam. And I was also on the staff at King Lunalilo Home. Took care of our kupuna there. Tradition is part of our history. And our history is to have our own self-determination, our own nationhood. And so that's what I'm for, expanding our vision so that we can meet our health, our educational, our cultural needs. The charter schools, they're fine, let's support them. But it's the curriculum, the process of education. As Native Hawaiians, that's the issue. As a people who are a great people, that let's be great again with God's good grace. Also, culture and our land base. I will expand our vision so that we can be all that we were meant to be with God's help and have experts, our Jews from Israel, to help us. They're experts in nationhood, self-determination, and we can do this with the help of Keakua. Mahalo. Amsterdam's a man. Aloha.
Thank you. Why?
Aloha, Pohai Ryan. I am seeking the office of trustee at large for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Everyone votes for OHA. I'm asking all of the voters of Hawaii, please support us. Help us improve the agency, help us better our conditions for our Hawaiian people. It is through your support and only by voting. The primary is very critical. From the primary, 6 of us will move on to the general. And when I'm trustee, those of us, or those of you who know me well, know that advocacy is definitely a strength I have, as well as drawing upon my experience in government and understanding the dynamics at the Capitol when needed, as well as the community and my background in nonprofit. So all of Hawaii, remember, everyone votes for OHA. Mahalo.
Aloha. First of all, mahalo for the opportunity to present our views for everyone. Keeping with the sort of theme of kupuna, kupuna, we're able to have great discussions, disagreeing vehemently, but with civility. That's the first step that has to happen at OHA. We have to learn to talk to each other without yelling at each other across the table. That is my hope that that would be the first positive step that would be implemented in resolving the issues that surround OHA. I have, as the chair of DLNR and as a deputy at the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, made the tough budget decisions to say that you can have and you cannot have. And unfortunately, those are the kinds of decisions that are going to have to be made by the future OHA trustees. And not proud of having that experience, but just sharing with everybody that I have done it, and it's not easy. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Again, we'd like to thank you for joining us here at Waiʻanae Coast Candidate Forum 2018. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Mahalo.
Well, another very interesting discussion. New candidates, almost the same questions. There were some variations in the questions, but I thought it was interesting to see 4 new personalities. What did you think? Were there any distinguishing markings among the 4 candidates that you found?
I think kind of generally they were pretty much balanced, as more in sync with each other and not as distinctive as the previous panel. But one of the questions, and not going in sequence, but one of the questions that really stood out to me was the funding of the super debate by OHA and Kamehameha schools. And I think the point of that question was, why are we only supporting one party when there's multiple parties? So candidate Landon, he pretty much hit it on the button as far as, not just the one other, but the others. And they seem to be balanced in that. They seem to agree that it shouldn't have been just one particular party that they feature.
Well, actually, weren't there any Republican candidates or were they invited to that debate?
It was a Democratic.
Oh, it was just
Party.
a Democratic forum.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
For the
yeah.
various offices. So,
Yeah.
I just thought that in itself was very, so much illustrates what the legislature is like. Because there's just the one party. And you don't have balance when you've only got the one party. So you need to have balance.
I think there's a big difference between what we're doing here in terms of inviting everyone who is registered for that particular office and give them all a chance to participate. And so that's that process. When you take a look at those larger debates, they're very selective, and they
Very
make
selective,
the choice as to
right.
who are the so-called front runners. And you can generally see who the front runners are based on
Right.
your what is that process?
Well, as good as it is, it doesn't really benefit the people to only know or to only be exposed to those that already have exposure. What about those lesser known, those
Yeah.
that are less funded, but have good intentions, may have good experience, but we just don't know about them. And so
Okay.
that's one of the purposes of our forum.
Yeah, I think there was some corrections that should be made to the history of Hawaii. The fact that we are not led by a Republican Party during the statehood period, the territorial period. That's true. But in 1954, with the Democratic Revolution,
Right.
from then on, Hawaii had been Democrat rather than Republican and Democrat. But
Right.
that really doesn't go to the issue of including more parties. But what about the fact that the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation, was it, or Kamehameha Schools,
KS,
were the co-sponsors? Was that appropriate, or should they have stayed out and let someone else conduct the debate?
Well, I think it's good to use our entities, Hawaiian entities that have the funding, but because they're Hawaiian entities, they ought to be featuring those that would present more of a Hawaiian perspective.
And that was Bill Eiler's point of view, that this was an opportunity to present a Hawaiian perspective, or a Hawaiian point of view, at least to the questioning. I thought Pohai response was also a great response, that as a 501c3 organizations, they should
Gotta be
stay
very
outside
careful.
of the political arena.
Right.
I think she's misinterpreting what the restrictions are. you are not to support any particular candidate, but you can get in and support voter registration, voter information, and the rest. But I think what distinguished both Pohai and Bill Ayla was that they were very specific, able to address the issue on opposite sides, but able to give clarity to the issue. So I especially liked their response.
Yeah.
Any other thing that, what about the issue of the auditor's report to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs?
Very interesting.
Yeah, I thought the ones who gave very specific reference, first of all, Paikai, or Landon Paikai, he was the first to answer that question. And what he said was that it's okay to be critical, but you have to come to the table with some very specific recommendations.
Yeah.
And so, on one hand, you can be analytical. On the other hand, you should be advocative. So, what changes? What are the recommendations to be made? So, he led off, and he, I think, distinguished himself by that particular response. It was obvious that he had reviewed the auditor's report, and so I thought his recommendation was very good. Anyone else who you found distinguished themselves in terms of their response?
No, not so much of that, but we do have, some Waiʻanae community members, one in particular that has spent a lot of time working with, and some could even say working on, the trustees, and she's had a lot to share about it, and she's gone to their meetings, so I very much support community advocacy.
Yeah.
And she's made it like a personal mission, to help, not to mess up the house, but to clean up the house.
I thought Bill Ayla's response was very specific. He obviously read the report, and he was able to point out that he would disagree with the auditor's recommendation in that the auditor was attacking what was called discretionary spendings. 13 million out of $16 million, so $16 million discretionary spending. And Bill Ayla could point out that for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, there was already a set aside that was previously agreed. So while it was called discretionary, they really had no discretion.
It really
just
was line items. It's
yeah,
just
it
that
was.
he didn't itemize it.
Yeah, and it wasn't every 2 year. It was a year-to-year change. Not only was that part of the part that, as Ayla was saying, the auditor may have missed that point. They also missed a point with regards to Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. They also missed a point with regards to charter schools. And so these are things that OHA had already committed themselves to.
Right.
And then he, and I think there was someone else, Pohai probably said it, that all you needed to do was stick to the policies and procedures already adopted by OHA. And one of them, I'm not sure who it was, said that what you really need is a board to be in closer working relationship with the administrative staff, and that distance between the two was why you have that.
That seems to be a big problem,
area.
the distance between the trustees and the Kapohana, the CEO, the executive director, administrator. And that's very unfortunate, because when they don't have that open line of communication, there is the fall through, there is the misunderstanding, and sometimes even the mistrust. So I hope that's something that they can work on.
Yeah. So I found that Pohai Ryan's response was very detailed, able to address the auditor's report. Obviously, she read the report. Obviously, Bill Ayla read the report as well, and so did Mr. Paikai. So I thought it was a sort of an interesting combined response. I note we have just 1 minute, and we have other things to distinguish these folks. The charter school issue was a very interesting response. What did you think? Anyone distinguish themselves with regards to that response?
Well, honestly, I had missed the responses. I was doing some other things.
Okay,
but
let me
go ahead.
Pohai was right on point that the charter schools were not only for Native Hawaiian students, they were for public education. And there was a certain responsibility that they first had to general education, and then charter schools were supposed to be sort of a specialized area, but they still, responsible to service all students, Hawaiian or non-Hawaiian. Bill Isla came in with another very interesting observation. He said, yeah, but it is these folks who do not have facilities. So I found that distinguishing among them. I'm getting a signal that I should
We gotta go.
be quiet. I'm out. Thank you very much.
Aloha.
We'll be back. Stay tuned.